Good evening. I'd like to call the October 6th, 2022 Minnetonka School Board meeting to order. Let's all rise and please say the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Before we adopt tonight's agenda, I'd just like to call the board's attention to two carry-on items. One is a last-minute bid that we will talk about, and the other is for the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Lisa, second.
Second.
Katie? Any comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our first item tonight is our school report from Deephaven. Superintendent Long.
Chair and members of the board, Minnetonka has a strong tradition of having every one of the schools independently or individually report to the board. These reports happen throughout the year, so understandably they contain different items, but we encourage our principals to report on areas, happenings at the school, and things that are aligned to the likely school board goals. Tonight we have Principal Brian McGinley from Deephaven.
All right, thank you, Chairman Vitale, Superintendent Law, members of the board. I'm pleased to be here tonight to share a little bit about our school. And in this case, when you're in October, it's the opening events of the year, so it's been a lot of fun. Good little staff for our community, but we're K-5 elementary with 658 students. That just went up the other day. And we have two programs within our one school that's English and Spanish. We have 26 or a little bit more than that % of open enrollment. And parent from the parent survey said, I like that they model behaviors before expecting them from kids. So we go with the concept of assume nothing, model and teach everything to set kids up for success. And then we go slow to go fast. You know that if you slow down, really take your time, focus on something, you end up doing it better. And that's what we do with the way we create our climate and work with student behavior. So we use responsive classroom, and the quote is responsive classroom. The responsive classroom approach to teaching is comprised of a set of well-designed practices intended to create safe, joyful, and engaging classrooms and school communities. And I would agree with all of those words, especially joyful. In fact, I would say this is probably the best start we've had at Deephaven. And I think it's coming off the pandemic. We've made a real intentional approach to our work with kids, knowing that they've been through so much. So school-wide, we have really refocused ourselves as adults on what we expect and how we're going to implement it. And you can see the response from the children. So what does that include? First 6 weeks, we're making sure, like we said, assuming nothing, and we're going to model and teach everything, including our school-wide signal. We talk about behaviors that are above the line and below the line. And then there's bottom line behaviors. That's something that none of us can do. Below the line is usually contextual, depending on the scene or situation, or it's just flat out not acceptable anywhere, but not real serious. Introduction or whatever of social thinking. And we talk about the size of the problem, help them get some perspective on what they're working through, our hidden rules and our expected rules. Then we go through hopes and dreams, and from that we create classroom rules. And then what we do is rules are up there. If the class is having trouble with a certain area, we just kind of revisit the rules and say, well, now we agreed to this. Is this something that we want to continue with, or are we going to need to change our rule? And usually what they'll say is, no, let's stay with the rule. And it's more of a reminder. So it does involve them in the whole process and that ownership. Then we've been working on our data analysis from our NWEAs that have come out. And we're really working, as you know, as a district through MTSS process. So what we're looking at right now is identifying our students that will receive Tier 2 intervention It's 40th percentile and below on the NWEA. And then those teachers are also determining their interventions. Beyond that, we go into our 40th to 60th or 70th percentile and look at tier 1 interventions for those students, making sure they continue to grow rather than drop into a tier 2 group. And then we're in the midst of looking at creating an intervention block for each grade level at our school. We're getting staff input. We're going to talk about some education around it. And what that would do is, if you're 4th grade, you'd have a block that now this is when all the interventions take place. So then teachers within the classroom can also do some of their additional interventions and extensions while a student's receiving additional math instruction from the math specialist or reading instruction. So we're taking a look at that. We might roll it out, but maybe in January, but it depends how this all goes. We want to do it right, and it would have a couple grade levels probably at first. It gets very complex quickly with schedules, so we're taking a look at that. And then sense of belonging is a board goal. So a couple examples of that is our M&M Mentor Program, where as adults in the building, you can say, I'd love to be a mentor. And then as a teacher, you would identify and refer kids that would benefit from a mentor a little more than others. And so I might be a 3rd grade teacher and I have a student in kindergarten that I mentor. In the past, our custodian has mentored a child. So it gets the whole school involved. Buddy programs, the intention of that is to make a connection with students from different grade levels. So our kindergartners, for example, are buddies with our 5th graders. And if I'm a kindergarten teacher in the English program, I would be paired up with a 5th grade teacher in the Spanish program. And so we're trying to create that community. In fact, some of the students who've come back and talked about that, I didn't realize the impact of the program because they stay in touch with their buddies, some of them still. And it's like an older brother, sister, or nephew, somebody of influence and a connection. And because you have a different grade level, there's that the special relationship that can be created through that. So it's a real fun program. They do that about once a month. And then Grand Friends is probably one of my favorite programs because we invite any retired person to come on in and have our kids read aloud to them, another adult, so that there's another caring person in their life that they meet weekly, and they sit with them and they read aloud to them and they encourage them. And that's Dick McFarland. He wrote me a letter, and he was CEO, chairman of the board at one of the financial companies that's headed out of downtown, and he's 93, incredible human being, and he wrote a letter saying what he wanted to do, and he had been doing it more toward the city, but he lived out here and he didn't want to do that drive anymore. So I called him up, he came over, and because it was such a success, we built that program around the model that he introduced to us. So wonderful community member there. And then Peaceful Bus is an opportunity for us to connect our students with the bus drivers in the school. After the routes are done, right around 9:15, the bus drivers come back to Deephaven, and we welcome them in the office with donuts and sign them in, and they have coffee and they get to talk, with one another, probably like they do back at the bus garage. And then we bring them down to their room, and what you'll find is when we start it, the whole building is moving. So I'm on bus 45, I'm going down to the media center. And when I walk in there, there's kids K-5 in there. There's my bus driver, and then there's staff from different levels in there. The staff gets kind of identified with a group. So I can see maybe my 3rd grade teacher's in there, and I'm in 5th grade, so it's a connection there. And the bus drivers, with the program, the bus drivers get to tell us a little bit about themselves. We do activities, and we make the bus driver human to the kids, and we build relationships among the students because they may not be in class with one another. So now you have a community rather than you get on the bus, you sit in your seat, somebody's driving, you don't have a chance to really connect as much. And the bus drivers walk out telling me, that is the best program, I love it, thank you so much, it gives them good value. And I'd like to give credit to our partners over at First Student because they pay them their time when they come over to do it. They extend that, so they're partnering with us as well. And then just some examples of creating a sense of belonging. We have a student leadership program. Lighthouse Publishing is where you write books and we publish them. Wacky Wednesdays, different dressing ideas, costumes, like I think that's pajama day. We do morning announcements that the whole school watches at the beginning of the day. We have a staff cookout, and that's one of the sunnier examples. It usually rains on our FIED teacher. He cooks for us, and it's awesome. The PTA supported buying us a grill, which we have in the outdoor classroom. Birthday books, that's a way for parents to come in and they get a brand new book back at the media center, walk down to the classroom and read to their child on their birthday. We put their child's name in there and their birthday, and so it's added to our media center, way to add to our collection. Celebrate Bike to School Day. Senior Serve is awesome. We get students coming back, as you know, from the high school. Really neat, especially if they've been attending that elementary at the time, and fun for them and for us. And buddy classrooms and peaceful bus I talked about, and then of course readathon. One way that we decided to improve a sense of belonging in our readathon was, if you're really not proficient in reading yet, it can be daunting to say, oh, I'm going to be part of a readathon. So we allowed kids who are receiving support to count the time that they're with their reading instructor, the specialist, and also if they were being read to, or if they were listening to, doing a computerized type book. So they didn't have to sit alone with a book that is really difficult for them to engage in those activities. So it really increased our involvement in that program. And that's it. Any questions?
Any questions or discussion for Principal Ginley?
All right. Well, thank you very much.
I just had one thing I was thinking about. You started off and you talked about how it was the best start of the school year, and how you were intentional and really assuming nothing. Do you think it was really because of COVID, or maybe a combination of the two? And are there things that you would carry forward to, maybe every start of the school year?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of, there was an energy you could feel of positivity from students, parents, and teachers. As much as it's been really difficult on everybody, I think the relief of knowing we were back to somewhat normal gave an energy. And then each year you may do things a little differently as a school and as a principal, and we decided to just, we got to really focus in on, let's review everything we're thinking of and how are we going to implement it, and take advantage of this opportunity. It's like a restart, and we wanted to really take advantage of it. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And I think what I learned from that, I guess, in terms of the question is, why not really take a look at things very closely and with staff not assume, oh, we're still doing that? No, we're going to just articulate that we'll be doing this. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have now reached the time for community comments. Community comments is an opportunity for the public to address the school board on an item included in this agenda in accordance with the guidelines printed at the end of this agenda. Do we have any community comments? All right. Next up is our back to school highlights. Superintendent Law.
Telling members of the board, so many exciting things happen at the start of the year across our entire system that Associate Superintendent Amy Ledoux said we should really showcase to our community the amazing things happening from pre-K through our beyond high school programming. And we're just going to take 15 or 20 minutes to celebrate the start of the school year and what a great start it was. Dr. Ledoux.
Well, good evening, Superintendent Law, Chair Vitale, members of the board. Mr. McGinley was certainly a great warm-up for this report because he said so many of the important things, we've been talking about among ourselves. It's hard to believe that we're already in our 5th week of school, and yet, as Brian mentioned, it's been really incredible to return to a more typical school year. As I've had the opportunity to be out in classrooms, talking with students, observing them, visiting with teachers, Our kids are happy. They're engaged. They're getting to collaborate. They can share things. They can play together. They can work together. It just feels heartwarming, quite frankly. And our teachers are, Brian said this, and ironically, it was the exact word I had thought about as I was thinking about how to describe it. They're joyful. They're re-engaged in their core purpose of really helping each of our students learn and be successful in their classrooms. And so tonight, we want to highlight the work of our administrators and our schools to really get this year off to the great start. You know, top priority was how are we resetting? How are we reestablishing our routines and our procedures that have been so interrupted as a part of COVID? And so tonight, we have several administrators here who are going to represent each of the levels. And while they'll certainly focus on our commitment and our priority around excellence in student learning, they're really going to highlight how we are creating schools of belonging, really that community where each kid feels seen, heard, and valued. So while it would have been great to have each principal go, and I know Superintendent Law said, maybe 15 minutes, might be a little longer, but we do have representatives. So we have Angie Kleinedler, who's going to talk about pre-kindergarten and her early childhood. Cindy Andrus and Brian McGinley are going to highlight each of our 6 elementary schools. Freya Schermacher will talk about our middle schools, MME and MMW. Jeff Erickson will, of course, talk about our high school, and Aaron Valenta is going to talk about our SAIL program, our 18 to 21. And while that sounds like a lot, they did mostly pare it down, and they'll get to the highlights. So with that, we're excited about the intentional work of our schools, and we're going to start with Angie.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Superintendent Law. I am Angie Kleinedler. I'm the Early Childhood Special Education Coordinator over at MCEC. I work very closely with Molly Bonneman, who oversees early childhood and early childhood family education. So at MCEC, some of the things that we've been really excited about is we were able to welcome over 340 Minnetonka preschool students, over 115 early childhood family ed parents, and over 90 early childhood special education students for our open house. And we were able to kick it off with a big bang. We had the teddy bear band come and play, an ice cream truck, and then the biggest, most important thing was the unveiling of our brand new playground over at MCEC. It is something that we're super excited about. It is appropriate for all levels of development, as well as much more accessible for students who have different levels of mobility. So we're really excited about that. The kiddos love it. Even Superintendent Law came over and played on it for a little bit with us. But it's been a really nice thing to welcome everybody back with, especially we were able to have for open house students and families come back in without masks to be able to see their classroom, to be able to see their peers, which was something different from the start of last year. And that just felt really welcoming and inclusive. One of the things that we've noticed is we've had a lot more students and parents leaving with tears at drop-off, and I think that's because our 3-year-olds are really those heart of COVID babies. Those 3-year-olds were born 2019, and so that's right when everything started, and their whole world has just been different. So it's been really exciting to have them come in without masks, to be able to be much more welcoming and just feel like they're really a part of our community. One of the things that we're doing to be really intentional about that separation and transition piece is we have parent preschool days, which is something that we do in the fall and in the spring. And this year in the fall, we're going to be very intentional about transitions and separation, knowing that that's hard on our littlest and as well as the parents leaving those students. So Parent Preschool Days is an opportunity for parents to come on in and do a little activity with their preschooler. We try to be very intentional about using some sort of social emotional framework. We use the pyramid model. We're in year 3 of that grant from the Minnesota Centers of Excellence. And we have them create a little activity that will help bridge that gap from preschool to home. So this year we're focusing on that visual schedule, those transitions, problem-solving solution kits, hoping that some of those things that they're hearing their preschooler talk about at home, that they're doing at school. Another thing we're really excited about is we have the unveiling of our Harbor program at our Early Childhood Special Ed. It is very similar and in alignment with K-12 with the Harbor program, meant for students with pretty significant special needs to be able to have an environment that feels very inclusive and welcoming for them. As part of that, we were able to redo our motor room and our sensory room, so we have a much more calming space. It was really overwhelming. There was lots of stuff for kids to climb on, but not a whole lot of stuff for kids to calm down in, and so we feel really proud about that. As well as we were able to put a rock wall in our gym at MCEC, so now the kids can climb outside and inside. One of the things that Minnetonka Preschool is doing is we have launched our Spanish immersion program, and so that's something that we're super excited about. It was a really hot ticket item, and that seems to be going very well. And we're hoping that some of those kiddos can then just launch right into that Spanish immersion kindergarten program. The second new preschool offering we have is the nature-based preschool, which the weather has worked out really well for it this fall. So far the kids are loving it. We'll see come winter what they think about it, but so far it's been really well, or going really well. We have 5 new licensed staff and 6 non-licensed staff, so it seems like a little small staff, but we're small but mighty over there. So thank you for allowing me to share the opportunities and the things that we're doing over at MCEC. We're excited for the year to come.
Okay, well, I'm Brian McGinley, principal at Deephaven. Welcome back to the board here as we continue on with elementary, and I'm excited to share about the schools, including Deephaven, but this is Clear Springs, and Clear Springs has placed an emphasis on school climate, collaboration, and community. By taking time to be excellent in these areas, they have made an investment that will reap dividends throughout the year. So you can take a look at some of those pictures. I know that the community night, as Kurt was saying, they had great attendance at that. That's really exciting to see getting the community back into our buildings. Next, we have Deephaven. Deephaven is focused on intentional ways of ensuring everyone feels like they belong at our school. This includes welcoming staff back with treats provided by our PTA and a pizza lunch provided by a former parent. Then we welcome back our families with kindergarten picnic, a new families event, and our open house and curriculum nights. The entire staff is helping our students feel a sense of belonging by following our responsive classroom plan developed for the entire school. Daily lessons are aligned with the steps needed to create a positive classroom community, and each classroom is engaged in the same activity, such as developing their hopes and dreams for the year. We also have buddy classrooms to create connections among students in different grade levels and different programs. And creating a strong school community will allow us to engage in the work of using data to drive our instruction. At Deephaven, we are one school with 2 programs where everyone has a sense of belonging. And next we have Excelsior. And Excelsior is working to welcome our community back into the school this year. They're supporting their young leaders by hosting student council, their junior coach program, and best buddies. They have also welcomed foster grandparents into the classroom this year. And as in past years, Mrs. DeCourcy will be hosting monthly chats with families and bringing a critter for students to enjoy and learn from on their Farm Friends Fridays. So as we know, Mrs. DeCourcy has a lot of connections to the farm and her chickens, so it's never dull, and there's a great picture of her smiling there on the bottom left. So that covers it for me. Now Cindy's going to take over the next 3.
So at Groveland, our goal is to start the year, and it's been to build a unified school around common expectations and community activities. We started the year by celebrating at an all-school assembly. Classrooms have continued building community in big and small ways with projects and activities. Our staff has been intensely implementing the social thinking curriculum that was recently recognized for their role in the creation of a teacher guide. Parents and PTO have also been a part of the effort by planning multiple low or no cost events like a fall festival to draw people together. We'll continue to build with our great start by revisiting and celebrating our success as a building and hosting more community events like our fall festival, Groveland Groove, and a gala. We're taking advantage of opportunities to gather and learn together. With intentionality at Minnetonka, we've hosted 8 days of community attire or theme days, hence why I'm in and dressed like I am today. Today was Outdoor Adventure Day. We find community attire to be one way to be inclusive throughout the year. September 15th was International Dot Day. It's celebrated by adults and children for boosting courage so their creative potential is released. We were inspired by the Peter Reynolds book, The Dot. The entire school, including both students and staff, is working on an art installation. It's a project that will be in our front hall that will focus on knowing one another's names. It's based on the book, Your Name is a Song, and will include dots where everyone has added their own name. So with intention, as a staff, we are expressing care by learning the names of our students and each other's. And we've been intentionally infusing our belief document with the express care habits so far. Fifth grade kindness retreat was new to the fall. Fifth graders spent the day on September 20th with Youth Frontiers and students that Jeff graciously lent us from the high school. The goal of the kindness retreat this year is for kids to experience nothing but kindness all day. Students learned 3 steps to be a hero to someone experiencing bully or unkind behavior. So they were learning how to help someone in that situation. At Scenic Heights, our goal is to start the year, and it has been focused on bringing a community together by listening to the staff, students, and families about what makes Scenic Heights a great place to be. Starting from a place of empathy has allowed us to better understand that things are working well and what we want to continue, as well as to help us define the opportunities ahead for our students in the new year. In August, we greeted our students and families at our annual picnic, where students had a chance to play in person with each other and learn more about the school. Teachers have been excited to get back outside in the outdoor learning center with authentic experiences for students to learn and grow. Continuing traditions include things like Tonka Pride Days and Classroom Buddies, and they continue to help our students feel like they're seen, heard, and belong in our building. And just this week, the 5th graders were able to kick off Kids Run the Station, KRTS. It was a new show that restarted an old show, and there were many smiling faces around the building when the music started and students knew the well-loved and celebrated routine was coming back. We look forward to continuing to listen and learn from our community and ideate a prototype of new things that positively impacts our students. That concludes our elementary portion, so thank you for letting us share with you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Cindy. Hello, Chairperson Vitale, members of the board, Superintendent Law, and our community. Good evening. This has been really fun to listen to everybody else's start of the year as well. And the one word that is coming up to me is intentionality. Because I think what we were able to do this year, and the reason we are experiencing kind of the joy that Amy alluded to, and is that intention, because for the past 2 years we've been learning so much through trial, through struggle, and just trying to figure some things out that were really challenging. And we were able to spend some time this summer to really distill what we thought was really valuable, what we wanted to keep, and what we were very happy to set aside. And with that intention, we could move forward. So that's just something that's really stuck with me as I've been listening. Just to share a little bit about MME, similar to MMW, I mean, I like to think of MME and MMW as we're not twins, but we're very close siblings. We're not identical, but we do have a lot in common. So similar to MMW, MME this year is really focusing on belonging and being very intentional with connecting with each and every student, particularly with their activities and getting students involved in their school. And that had to do with homecoming week as well. As you can see, the students dressed up in Tropical Day, as well as the other spirit days that they had during homecoming week, and some of the other special events. And I'll kind of call back some of the other MME back to school events as well as I proceed with a little bit of MMW. One of our first our main focus is in welcoming and transitioning our incoming sixth graders. It is a big jump coming from an elementary school where they've been really connected to this smaller classroom community to come to a middle school with close to 1,300 students and to navigate our hallways and having 7 classes and all of the challenges of middle school. So we're very intentional with our Junior First Mates program. That's when our 8th graders meet with our 6th graders before school starts. They have an orientation program where they give a tour, they have activities, they have a trusted older 8th grader in the building when our 6th graders start. And these pictures here are from our 6th grade team building days. So integrated into the first few months of school, we have special days for 6th graders where in their content classes they have team building activities to get to know each other, to build trust, and to build community. This was kind of a rope activity where they had to untangle themselves. And if they were successful untangling, then they had to do it in silence to do the same activity. So it was great to watch. And it was so fun to see 6th graders really come together and feel included in our MNW community. Just a couple other things I wanted to highlight as we started the school year. With our Search Institute data, we're happy that 92% of our students feel a strong sense of belonging in MNW, but we just are so unsettled by the 8%. And that really got us thinking this summer as we were planning about how do we increase that number. So we have a new program this year called Green Lights, which is a nautical term related to the right side of the ship. So green light is being on the right side of connecting with our students. And what it is we're committed that every single student will have a positive connection with a staff person per quarter. And we, organized our meetings, our grade level meetings, so that we can check in and ensure that every student has that connection. It could be a positive note home. It could be a conversation with the student. We have a new program called our Student Skipper Salute, where we send an e-message to a student that shouts them out for something fabulous that they did. So those are some ways that we're ensuring a positive connection with each student. We're continuing our work with our core values, which I've talked about in the past. One of those core values is kindness, and we've been able to really dig into that this year with our PTO fundraiser, which is actually focused on acts of kindness and paying it forward. And you can see this picture is our kindness tree. And as I shared with our staff, I'm not a cynical person, but I am just a little bit skeptical. And when they talked about a kindness tree, I was a little wary of how sappy that could be. But however, what it is students basically record their acts of kindness, and then they put it on this tree. And it is the best thing in the world to stand in front of this tree and read these acts of kindness. And really just see how students are intentionally making other people's days better, and then to see it all come together on this tree. And this was taken a couple days ago, and this tree has exploded even more since then. So that's been a real highlight. And my final thing I wanted to comment about for the start of the school year, and this is common with East and West, is our focus on literacy this year, and I think that's probably district-wide. But we really spent our 2-hour early release last week focusing on core standards, on literacy standards, and getting teachers together and digging through their curriculum and lifting up our literacy standards. And I tell you, that felt so good, because I don't think we've really taken the time to dig into the content in that way as a community since COVID. So we're kind of back to that, ensuring that educational excellence without some of the other worries that we've really had to prioritize in the past 2 years. So that kind of concludes our middle school start to the school year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Superintendent Law, members of the board. So the high school, you continue the theme around intentionality. And last year on announcements every Monday, we had a segment called All Aboard with one of our counselors giving different tips about how to be successful. So this idea of launching the year with All Aboard came from our staff and from a group of counselors and other teachers saying, how can we make the start of the year different? And really with a theme about building our community. And we weren't saying rebuilding, we're just saying how we're gonna build our community, how do we want it to be? This is one of my favorite photos from our 9th grade retreat, at a spectacular day with over 200 senior leaders ready to help share what our values are as a school and how we work together and how do we build community. So every step that happened this year, more than any other year I've been in this position, has really been intentional and clearly designed. Class of 2023 also had their photo a few weeks ago outside on the football field. This is the first year we had to make a 3, so they did a nice job with that. One year we're going to do Roman numerals. We'll see how that goes. So we look at our professional learning. I really cannot say enough of the work the teachers did over the summer. We had over 40 teachers on 12 different teams designing 12 different lessons about what would happen during those first 2 days of school. Research-based, collaborative in nature. So as summer was going on, they were working really to set that year. Developing the core pillars, as we talk about for success, and the messaging around that. Obviously back to our building goals as a school, building relationships, engaging in learning, and helping students find their passion. But more than anything, I have over 200 teachers. And how do we come back to common language as we work together and common expectations for students? So that team worked on all of this. This is a small representation of the other day. I just wanted a quick photo of some of the leads. We had clothing for the staff as well with all the board t-shirts that they wore the first day. And really our message as a staff was we are one team. So workshop week this year was about 4 hours of professional learning where teachers rotated among 12 different rooms and had their colleagues present the lessons that they would present those first 2 days of school. So as we look at professional learning model, teachers learning from each other, just really engage, and for me just to watch that in action was amazing. We worked a lot with our communications team to help us work on our messaging related to the 4 pillars, and we talked a lot about this with our students. Each one of the pillars, we put together a video that talked about it, everywhere from 50 seconds on the importance of being present to a longer one about being respectful, and all this idea of setting the stage for the year and building that community. And we sent a lot of those, all those videos went out with staff, and throughout the weeks leading up to school, we spent a lot of time on the who's who of all the staff. We have 2 new assistant principals this year. We had an academic and student support coach. So how do students know who's who? So Be Present was one of the videos, and we had 3 others as well. So the topics that you see on the screen are the 12 different sessions that we ran for staff. And honestly, one of the sessions you see is who's who. There's some staff that met people that they didn't know existed just because they're on the other side of the building, or what's your role exactly? So for staff, they learned as well. But these were all the themes that happened over those first 2 days. Communication went out as well. We had a mailing that went out to all families about all aboard and what that was. I've learned that in communication, we need to say something at least 9 times. I would say so far we're up to about 5 at the high school as we come back to these messages. We still have work to do. And with our community as well. You can see the picture of the administrative team. But coming back to those 4 pillars, and what does it mean to be a successful student? I'm going to quickly go through some highlights of some of the themes. Simple things like being present was a critical message. What happens in the first 10, last 10. Non-exciting topic, but a very important topic was really bell to bell being present. What does that mean in the classroom? And literally putting your phones away and disconnecting from that outside world, be present in that moment. And I really feel like we've had some strong success with that, and being present, being engaged, and being in the moment. But that's taken everybody, when I talk about being consistent, being on the same page, to really separate from what's going on and to be dialed in. What does it mean to be a skipper? And what does it mean, what does that role mean within the school? And how do you influence others? What does it mean to have respect toward others and having different voices? So teachers work with some students over the summer to have short videos that happen during those lessons. So just to be clear, obviously we have a 6-period day, so 6 lessons day 1, 6 lessons day 2. Within that as well, those 2 days, we had all the class meetings. So I met with all the grades during those first 2 days. It sometimes spilled into weeks in the first month of school. So we felt like I could connect as well with the students. But videos, we really focused on students helping find their passion. We had some great increase in enrollment in advanced classes. And so what does that productive struggle look like? So one of the lessons during those periods of time, talk with students about what do you need to do as you're learning, and how sometimes you have to maybe not find success that first time and come back at it again, and that's part of the learning process. So that was one of the pieces. Who's who, if you're struggling, all the writing coaches that we have, and the writing coaches and the writing coordinators that we have. So making sure students know if they're not finding some success, what are some of the resources. Being resilient. And I think that's one thing they've learned over the past few years, but how do they handle different things that come up and lessons around that. Self-care, what does that look like? Being involved, being connected as well, being mindful about screen time, and then your iPhone, you can actually monitor your screen time and see if you're spending too much time on TikTok. But monitoring that, again, the who's who. We have 10 counselors. We added a school psychologist here. We added an academic student support coach. Who are they? Students learn that they actually have an assistant principal that's assigned by Alpha. They didn't know that until they went through that session. So who are all the people that are committed to their success? We wrapped up the 2 days, and there was a quiz so that we know that students know what is expected and who the supports are, and to really gather feedback from students. It has been we've had a busy year in terms of attendance at events, which has been great to see. Homecoming week, we broke a lot of records from the game to dances, to the dance. Also, as we talk about setting expectations, our activities director Ted Schultz has worked with all the Lake Conference principals about events and what does it mean to be a respectful student at events and for families as well. So in addition to that campaign, we've rolled out through our communication, through our students, all our class meetings, a great video about what does it mean to be a student at events and above the line. The phrase I've come back to often is vivid clarity about what we want, how we work together, and what does it mean to be a student within the school. Clarity about what's above the line, what's not, to be a positive student at events. Like right now, there's a football game I'll be going back to. We've had great crowds at that. That one of the pillars is about being connected. So Ted Schultz is a great way to get connected. He was featured in the video about the different ways. This year we had the activities fair. Last year we had a great record of 82 tables. This year we had 95 different clubs represented during the activities fair. There's one of the clubs featured right here of the coffee house with some talented musicians. So just tremendous attendance and just a tremendous pride students have as they're talking about their clubs. And that is really the keys. We talk about belonging. How do you make a large school small? It is through all the different connections and activities. So a great start to the year. What's happening as we move ahead? Every week on the morning show, we continue the all aboard. As I mentioned, we keep coming back to our communication. The 4 pillars, again, that be respectful pillar. And on Tuesday, we have the 9th grade retreat. And so they will work with Youth Frontiers about what does it mean to stand up for respect. So all 9th graders will go through that process. This week, we moved our senior speaker to the fall instead of May. Craig Hilliard to talk about what does respect look like, resilience, and how do you respond with our senior class to help set the tone for the year with their leadership. Continue messaging on social media. I'm adding a monthly parent meeting this year that's virtual. We had the first one in August. So all the things I shared with you tonight are shared with all grades in August, and that was new. Normally it was just 9th graders, and this year we did it virtually with grades 10 through 12. It is about building our community. We celebrated our first senior showcase this year about how do we come together, and it really has been an awesome start, and I just want to credit my staff and the students for coming together under one team and building our community in a very intentional way. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to admit, I don't know how to move the slide. Down? There we go. Hi, I'm Erin Valenta. I'm from SAIL, and we actually welcomed 32 students this year. It's our second year at SAIL, and we have actually done a lot of team building activities as well. We had a full week of getting to know students, and we actually had our students write their expectations for our building. They collaborated on all of that and voted on kind of our rules. We can see that we had a lot of learning in previous buildings. They brought a lot of the things forward that other administrators had talked about. And that what we do for our community piece really is that we are in the community. So we have added 5 more business partnerships this year, and in addition to the 5 that we carried forward, so we're up to 10, which in year number 2 feels pretty good. We have really good news about our Bernard group. They're actually actively, competitively employing some of our students, and what we say a lot in our building is that our community teachers or our community members are teachers. Anyone could be a teacher if you just learn from them or take the opportunity to learn from them. So we are still going out in the community doing our outings as well. We are still participating in unified sports. We partner with the high school for that because we're just still a small program. We have our Best Buddies program. We have St. Kate's as a new entity for us for Special Olympics. And then I'm just going to do a quick little plug. We still have our sale business where we are selling our dog treats. We have done actually pretty well. We have production and are coming here to the district office and have started RevTrack through our entity too. So hopefully you guys will see some of those. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think the pictures and the stories that our administrators have shared are really make very visible the great start that really has happened in the Minnetonka schools, from our youngest learners through our 21-year-olds and for our staff. So we're just really proud of the work that everyone is doing to come together and to make sure that we're providing the best opportunity in every aspect for each of our students. So thank you. And certainly our team is here if you have questions for any of them.
Any questions or comments for Dr. Ledoux or any of the speakers?
Well, it really, I have a comment, I guess. Phenomenal presentations, and thank you for coming tonight and sharing them all with us. All the work that you've shared tonight about our belonging goal is incredible to see it being really a focus in all the schools. And then I love to hear about the literacy goals that you've had. It really just a phenomenal presentation from all building levels. Can't wait to get my hands on some more dog treats. So certainly I'll be reaching out for that. I love that with the sale program. So I don't have any questions, but just want to say thank you for coming. It really was wonderful to hear the highlights.
Great. Anyone else? Megan?
I just also have a comment. I really like seeing the commonality in the language, and I think Erin kind of referenced that when they're getting people at sale, students that have been in our district for a long time, they're using that same language. And I actually had a comment from a sports team the other day that the students that were at different schools on the same team were all using the above the line, below the line. And so I think that's really, like we said, intentional, but it's nice to see that common thread and the common language being used.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, and thank you for everybody for the great presentations. So fun to see.
Yeah.
Our next item is the enrollment report. Superintendent Law.
Chair Vitale, members of the board, each year in this first meeting of October, we review enrollment for the district, including some numbers different from our opening school report. This report includes data about open enrollment and some statistics about enrollment that we can look at year over year. So tonight we have Dr. Jackie Getty, our Director of Communications, to share our annual enrollment report.
Superintendent Law, Mr. Chair, members of the board, thanks for the opportunity to present. As we know, enrollment of students is vital for all school districts in Minnesota, and that school districts that are growing and not shrinking have a distinct advantage over those that are declining. And in accordance with our enrollment plan, we do welcome open enrolled students to enjoy the benefits of our programs and of our staff. And the success of open enrollment has really meant that we've been able to stabilize enrollment that has allowed us to continue on with our innovative programs and also to keep class sizes small and to not have budget cuts. So let me walk you through our plan from this year and results. So again, we maintain that open enrollment really to fund our innovative programs here in Minnetonka, and that benefits all of our resident students as well as our open enrolled students. It also helps us to keep those classroom sizes low because we have the revenue to be able to do that and to avoid budget cuts. This year, the district is under 11,372 in student enrollment, which is the enrollment number that the board approved in the budget on June 2nd, 2022. And that includes both in-person students and also those in Tonka Online full e-learning program. Our schools aren't at capacity. You did commissioned an April 2020 capacity study that showed that we could have 14,000 students. That certainly is not where you've set it and not where we're headed. And the district doesn't plan to fill to that capacity, but we're nowhere near it. Open enrollment helps us to meet the funding needs for all of our current programs, and without it, there would not be enough resident students to meet those levels. And as we know, having a thriving school district benefits not only our students, but also the Minnetonka community, increases property values to live in a place where there is one of the top school districts in the state and really in the country. Our grade levels for in-person learning this year are between 780 students and 896. But if you take just resident kindergarten enrollment, it's 561 students. And I'll revisit that again in just a bit. But here's a breakdown. So our total enrollment, and these are numbers from last week. There are a few changes this week, as there always are. So October 1, there was an update and a small shift, a few students here and there, but this is close. So total enrollment, 11,037 in-person students, 177 Tonka online fully learning students, including 54 that have returned or come from one of the district partnerships for Tonka online. We have 4,018 in-person open enrolled students and 99 full e-learning and 54 coming from the partner districts. So that is 37% of our students are open enrolled. And by education level, at the elementary and middle schools, it's 38%, and at the high school, it's 34%. The total number of districts isn't actually on this page, because if you combine both the ones where we have kids coming for in-person learning and then the extra ones that kind of cross over, there are 62 districts between the 50 districts for in-person learning and the 43 for online learning where our students are coming from, aside from Minnetonka. So altogether, there is some crossover there, and there are 62, and that's the highest number we've ever had. And when you look at just our in-person numbers, this is the open enrollment coming from each of these districts. And then I put a plus or minus that shows how many more or less from last year. So these tend to be the same 10. A few of the bottom ones flip-flop year over year, but really the top 5 have stayed consistent. So Hopkins, 1,094, up 109 from last year. Then Eastern Carver, 901. Eden Prairie, 557. West Tonka, Wayzata, Minneapolis, Waconia, St. Louis Park, Robbinsdale, and Osseo Maple Grove. And then looking at our Tonka Online e-learning open enrollment, much smaller numbers, but these are the districts that they're coming from. If we have 177, then you know that a lot of those below that are going to be 2 students, 2 students, 2 students, and then the ones. But 12 from Hopkins, 9 from Wayzata, and from Minneapolis, and then goes on down. We do get the question occasionally, does open enrollment increase our class sizes? So we wanted to show this study that's done every year by I think it's the Minnesota Legislature Library. And so where you see 2020, 2021, 22, 23, those are our numbers. And then the metro average are the metro school district average who participate in this, which is the majority of the metro schools. So when you look at 2023 for this school year, Minnetonka is at 20.3 for a class size average for kindergarten, which is consistent with the metro average. For first grade, it's slightly higher than the metro average at 21.7, the metro average being 21.1. At second grade, we're at 19.7, and the metro average is 22.8. At third grade, we're at 21.9, the metro average is 23.6. At fourth grade, we're at 24.1, the metro average is 24.6, and at fifth grade, the metro average is 25.7, and we're at 24.7. So we do maintain low class sizes, and again, that additional revenue helps us to do that. When we have more kids in one class, we can add a pair and make that adult to child balance a smaller gap, and then we also have the ability to have the resource to split into 2 classes if it gets too large. And so this year alone, $43 million of our revenue is coming directly from open enrolled students, and that's a significant chunk of the revenue that we have each year. And this just kind of walks you through how this has worked. What has been this cycle in Minnetonka? We attract students. It's the wonderful programs, the fantastic staff, really retaining that staff, retaining those teachers, and having that wealth of programs for students and families to choose from has attracted those open enrolled students and our district students, of course, as well. And that allows us to grow those financial resources. They bring in additional revenue when they're open enrolled, because some of the money that comes in with them goes toward the core costs, but a lot of those costs are already met. We are already paying for the buildings. We're already paying for the majority of our teachers and staff. We have some additional costs that come in from materials, from a few additional teachers or a handful, but really a lot of those core costs are already met. So a lot of that money then goes to allow us to create other programs like language immersion, like Momentum, like Vantage, and that then benefits resident students as well as open enrolled students. So these are this year's numbers. We received $7,093 in general state aid and operating capital for each kindergarten through sixth grade resident or non-resident student who attends our district, and $8,512 for each grades 7 through 12 resident or non-resident student. And again, those basic costs of operation have already been met, so a lot of additional money comes in from the non-resident students. So looking at just one class, if we look at this fall's kindergarten class, this class of 2035, which makes me feel really old, there are 896 in-person students between resident and open enrolled, and you can see the breakdown there. 561 are resident kindergartners, 335 are open enrolled. And if we had only resident kindergartners, the reduction just in basic aid and operating capital revenue would be $2.4 million a year. So over the time that they would be in school with us from kindergarten through 12th grade, that's $31 million for that class alone if we retained all of those students throughout. And so we're really in that unique position to be able to set those enrollment targets. If we reach a level where we can't take any more students in a particular class or in a particular grade level, we can close that out and keep bringing in open enrollment to meet the target levels in each grade, and that has really been something that has been a key to success here. And then I just wanted to share one slide, I guess, from the annual parent survey, looking, and I know I shared the whole survey back in August, but 96% of our parents across the board felt the quality of education in the district was excellent or good. And then we looked at open enrolled families. They're very happy as well. 98% felt the quality was excellent or good. So that is just a snapshot. I know there's much more that we could share on this, but wanted to share the most recent data with you. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Getty? Thank you for a great report. Appreciate it. Next up is adoption of our annual report. Superintendent Law.
Chair Vitale, members of the board, at our last work session, you had a chance to preview this amazing document, something that I have coming from outside the district. I'm really impressed by both the document. The report is amazing. The contents are amazing, but really, the report's amazing because it showcases the excellence in our school system. So tonight, you're going to have the final version of this before it's mailed out to our entire community. And it's presented by Dr. Jackie Ginn, Director of Communications.
Thank you, Superintendent Law, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm super excited to present this final draft of the annual report from 2022. And I will start right off with this lovely cover. I think that the parents of these kiddos are really excited to see this go out. So that's a really fun one. And this is the one that you chose. So we added in all the changes that you made. There weren't a lot of them, which was really exciting too. I mean, we love your feedback, but we also love when we feel like we've hit it right and don't need to change a lot. So, but one of the changes that you did have was to select a cover for us. So thank you. That's the cover. We also have an addition that you hadn't seen the last time because we had the superintendent's message as a placeholder all in Latin. So now you actually got to read his message.
That wasn't really me.
It's still sounding really smart, Superintendent Law, so it's good. So I think as we go through this, if there are points where you'd like me to stop and pause and discuss a piece, that's great. But I'll just keep trucking along if nobody does stop me. So Superintendent Law's message was new, and then we have a section that was the update from the school board, and you last year revisited the vision document and made updates to it. So we put the vision statements in there. It includes some of the changes, well, whatever changes were to that section, but also links to the full vision document for anyone who wants to see that full document. And then we did a sit down with Chair Vitale to talk about last year's goals and the progress toward achieving them, and how the goals were set and what was the progress that was made, what were the most significant parts of it, and then what else could we learn from it, and really talking about that engagement of all stakeholders and how important that is. So linking back so that people can see that as well and see that progress that was made. And then we have a section that is highlights academic achievement, so we always share the successes of our students who have reached that National Merit Semifinalist status. We had 37 students this year, which is pretty amazing, and we didn't have this number when you saw the last draft, but 49 commended students, National Merit Commended, which is also just outstanding. And then for IB diploma candidates, or graduates, 59 students from the class of 2022 earned that diploma, the International Baccalaureate Diploma. And then we had a page where we really just called out some of the really special achievements that some of the students, I mean, we could have probably had a 300-page book where all the students got to talk about their amazing achievements, but these were 3 really fun ones. So we had one student talk about the International Science and Engineering Fair and his award there, and 2 students who talked about reaching the state level Minnesota Aspirations in Computing Awards. That was the 2 middle gals there. And then 2 students who won in their category at the Sigma Student Research Conference, so they talked about that. Section on our MCA and NWA test performance and how our students were doing. As you can see, and you saw in the drafts, Minnetonka students in the MCAs ranked 1st in science and 2nd in math and reading among comparable schools in the Twin Cities based on tests in spring of 2022. And then 2, you can see the NWEA scores. By the spring of their first year with Minnetonka schools, kindergartners are already beginning to perform ahead of their peers, and by the end of elementary school, the average 5th grader is performing at a mid-9th grade level in reading and an early 12th grade level in math. AP by the numbers. We had a question here, and I think it was from Director Selinger just asking whether we wanted to include IB. We had it included in how many students from the class of 2022 had taken an AP or IB exam. We took that out since we're talking about IB in a different section, so it just made it more consistent with this page, but really just shows how many students are participating in advanced placement at the high school. We have a 2-page spread in the annual report with best wishes to the class of 2022, highlights from US Bank Stadium, the commencement there on June 6th, and some great photos from our wonderful photographer who we bring in, Corey Ryan, occasionally for some of these great events. And then some highlights from the class, the percentage of students that graduated, 99%, wonderful. Those attending 2-year trade schools, those attending colleges and universities here in Minnesota and broadly, and then those entering military service. And then we have a section on some of the building projects, and 3 in particular that we call out, the 3 big ones. The groundbreaking for the new Vantage Momentum building that took place in May. And that build being underway, the new space for SAIL. Last year was SAIL's first full year, and you heard from Aaron Valenta earlier today. And then the space at the high school, that was the addition for Momentum with the car garage to get started with the automotive part of Momentum. So we do a highlight on each one of those building projects, and you can see those there. And then we have a section, a 2-page section on the search for superintendent law and how that went this past year, and all of the community engagement opportunities and the hundreds of people that were involved, whether it was in focus groups or whether it was participating in surveys, and how happy we are with the results. So. And then we also do a little write-up on Dr. Peterson, who retired after 21 years as the superintendent. And we also link to a longer story that we did in the alumni magazine. We did a cover story on him, and we link back as well to his celebration that we did at the end of the year for him, for those who weren't able to attend or just want to see it again. We have a nice long section that our wonderful communications specialist, Mary Cornelius, wrote with signature programs from language immersion to Minnetonka Research to Momentum, the Navigator program, and also Vantage. And throughout it, she interviewed a lot of students to talk about their experiences and the growth of these programs. And it's been really exciting to see how much participation these programs have had especially seeing the growth in Vantage, which is just unbelievable, and also Momentum, and how many students are being served by that. Grown to serve more than 700 students, which is pretty exciting for just Momentum. And I know you love seeing the student voice, so we try to really involve students in the stories as much as we could. It really tells the real story of the experience they're having. This was another section that Mary Cornelius really enjoyed working on. This is a new section this year about how skippers are serving the greater good, the service learning that they've done, and the service opportunities and ideas that they've brought forward on their own. The young man you see with the basketball, he created something called 3-pointers for Ukraine, and people could sell shots. Like if they made a 3-pointer, there was money raised for that, and in the end, like I think his goal was to raise $500. They raised $36,000, he and his brother, and they got people all over the world excited about it. And Mary wrote a story on this and worked with the family, and it ended up getting picked up on national news. And this is so exciting for this kiddo and for his family, and for the effort that they did, and for the money that it raised, which went to Ukrainian refugees who were resettling in Poland. And that's just really exciting. And then we also highlight Seniors Serve. It's a 2-day event at the end of the school year for seniors, where they really give back to the community and serve a bunch of different nonprofits in the community. Talk about some highlights of service across the district, and then of course our celebration of service. And kids as young as 5 can participate in service opportunities that are recognized through that program. We have a 4-page spread that is about points of pride, and this is one of the most fun to read. It's probably not one of the most fun to compile, but the team does a good job of doing it, so shout out to Mary and Daniel for this. But we really try to get all of the points of pride highlights for students in academics, activities, arts, and athletics, as well as accolades that the district has accomplished or that staff have accomplished. And we try to include as many photos as possible as well. And then there is a section on community education. And we tried to, there's a lot that community education does, so trying to wrap it up into one page. I think at some point we're going to have to give Mr. Litvin a few more pages in this. But we do the biggest highlights and data points for the Explorers Child Care Program, for preschool and ECFE, our adult and youth programs, all the amazing events. They get tucked into one paragraph, and there is so much there. It could be its own chapter. And then also volunteering with MCE. We have a section on the launch of the full e-learning program last year, how that went. We talked to a family and to some students about their experience, and then too highlighted a teacher who talked about how she makes her class, how it's like a small family, and how wonderful that has been for her and for the students in the class. And the family was really wonderful to work with. That was great to see what a great experience they're having and opportunity that it is for families that want that kind of learning. As part of the state requirement, we include the world's best workforce, and there are 5 state goals that that all school districts are aiming for and continue work on every year. They are: children are ready for school, 3rd graders can read at a grade level, closing the achievement gap, students graduating, and students ready for college and careers. And Sarah White will be, from the teaching and learning team, will be giving the full report on that in November, but we always include it in the annual report, so this is just a summary of that. And we did make a change there. Director O'Halloran mentioned that we really should emphasize our commitment to closing the achievement gap, so we included that as well. And then we have 2 pages on our financial management, and we talk about where the revenue from the district comes from, how much comes from federal funding, how much from local, what is our annual operating budget, how are we efficient with per pupil spending, where do we fit within that. And then 2, we highlight that for the past 27 years, consecutive years, every year since 1994, 95 maybe, Minnetonka Public Schools has received the Excellence in Financial Reporting Award, and that is a huge call out to Executive Director of Finance and Operations, Paul Bourgeois, and his team. They're amazing. And we also have retained Moody's AAA bond rating. And then on the very last page, for those of you as old as me, this reminds me of the Partridge Family.
So, but it's just little highlights from the parent survey, and then a link in the middle to the full survey results, which I presented to you in August. So 96% of parents said our education here is excellent or good. 95% say the community receives a good value from its investment in public schools. You can see those that would recommend their child's school to a friend or neighbor, 95% of elementary, 92% of middle school, 89% of high school, and then 93% of parents saying their child's school provides a safe learning environment. So that is the final draft of the annual report. We're hoping for your approval, and if received, it will then get mailed out to every resident in the district, every resident household, and then to every family, open enrolled and resident. And then we also put it on the website, and we add interactive videos where it makes sense for the different programs, where we have things that can highlight and help to feature those as well.
Thank you, Dr. Getty. Can I have a motion to adopt the 2022 annual report?
So moved.
Second.
Lisa? Questions or comments? Lisa?
I have one comment and one question. So thanks, Jackie, to you and your whole team. You always do such a great job with this document. And I think that, you know, just like with community ed, we hear over and over again how important the physical catalog is. It's the same with this annual report. I think that, you know, often when I'm talking with people in the community, particularly people that don't have children in the schools anymore, this is such a touchstone for them to be able to, you know, see what's going on and to see the great things that all of our students and staff are doing, and also to just kind of see how healthy the district is, which is really important, right? You mentioned it a little bit in your closing comments, but I'm wondering, my question is, can you elaborate a little bit more on a couple of the differences that people will find if they do look for the document online?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have videos that are specific to the Vantage program, specific to the Momentum program. We have the link that would be to Dr. Peterson's retirement event. We have you know, a link to different places across the website. So every time that you see a piece, we can link to something where we've either done a story on it or we've created a video for it. So there's probably like 20 different opportunities to link to more content.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. Anyone else? Thank you, Dr. Getty, and I know you thanked Daniel and Mary as well, and your entire team that condensed a whole school year into about 30 pages. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We gotta vote, Chris. Oh, I always forget. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Lisa. All right, next up is approval of sale of the 2022 C general obligation refunding bonds. Superintendent?
Chair Vitale, members of the board, last May, you authorized the district to do some refunding of some bonds that were originally sold almost 10 years ago. As you know, our Executive Director of Finance and Operations does an amazing job of finding refunds for our taxpayers or ways to limit tax responsibility. Tonight, he'll be talking about the refunding of these bonds in a sale that happened just a few weeks ago. Mr. Bourgeois.
Thank you, Superintendent Law, Mr. Chair, and members of the board. We sold our 2022 C general obligation refunding bonds, which refunded 2013 H general obligation bonds, which themselves were refunding bonds from the last bond issue that we did in 1996 that was approved by a voter referendum. The bonds were sold at 3.83%, which is higher than we had hoped, but we're still in a rising interest rate environment, and they've been rising actually relatively fast. We were still able to pull out about $24,839 in savings. That's lower than what we had hoped for. We had hoped for $70,000 when we did the original estimate back in May and asked for your approval. But we did, in the process of this, we lowered the outstanding par value from $3,920,000 down to $3,725,000, so there's less par value to pay off. The nice thing about this is that it actually put us over $25.6 million in total savings. It's the 40th refunding bond that we've done since from calendar 2008 through calendar 2022. So this basically pushed us over $25.6 million. So anytime we have a chance to refund, we have done it, and it's always worth our while. $24,000 is $24,000. So any chance we get, we will continue to take. It's going to be a little bit tighter. Those of you who are on the board in calendar 21, remember that we refunded, kind of frantically refunded 18 bond issues to try to get in because we expected rates to start going up. So we won't be at that pace now for the next several years, but we're going to continue monitoring all our outstanding bonds and look for any opportunity that we can do to refund what we can and add to that savings total. So we'd ask you to approve the sale of the bonds. And actually, the other thing is our AAA credit quality probably was one of the key things that actually allowed us to get these bonds sold this past week, because there's not a lot of, well, it was a tough bond sale. Normally we saw it in an hour and a half, and this took all day long. So, you just try to do all the right things, and once in a while you call it a win. So, thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the 2022 C General Obligation Refunding Bonds Sale Resolution as prepared by Dorsey and Whitney?
So moved.
Is that Patrick and Katie? We'll go Katie. A second? Patrick? Questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is acceptance of bid for Clear Springs unit ventilator replacement. Superintendent Lowe.
Chair Vitale, members of the board, Mr. Bourgeois has been very busy bidding to stay within budget and do the upgrades that you have directed him to do. I won't introduce each of these individually, but I'll let him bring them forward for board explanation, questions, and approval. The first one is like I said, ventilator replacement at Clear Springs. Mr. Bourgeois.
Thank you, Superintendent Law. Mr. Chair, members of the board, the next several items are related to our long-term facility maintenance, and it definitely is paying off for us to continue to steadily maintain our buildings for the long term. We had our prior generations put a lot of money into these buildings, and to pay it forward to future generations, it's our obligation to make sure they stay in good shape so we can keep paying it forward for future generations after us. Interesting point about our school facilities. Of our 10 main facilities, the community ed, our 6 elementary, 2 middle school and high school, we have the core of the high school, the core of 5 of our elementary schools, every one except Scenic Heights, and the core of our community ed building. I've been saying they qualify for Medicare. They're all over 65 years old or older, but they actually are in good condition, and they'll last a long time. So it's worth it for us to continue to make this steady investment. We accepted bids for unit ventilator replacement. This is HVAC work in about half of the classrooms. That's about how much we can do in one summer. And so we got good bids on this. We actually came in under budget estimate, which is going to be important on one of the last ones because we did come in over on our roofing bid based on weird conditions. But we have recommending the Daring Pearson Group at $939,000 to do this work for us next summer.
Thank you, Mr. Bourgeois. Can I have a motion to accept the low bid of Deering Pearson Group in the amount of $939,000 for unit ventilator replacement at Clear Springs Elementary School in summer of 2023?
So moved.
Lisa, second?
Second.
John? Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next up for Mr. Bourgeois is acceptance of the bid for Scenic Heights unit ventilator replacement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We have basically the same kind of work going on at Scenic Heights Elementary School. We're replacing some HVAC unit ventilators that are wearing out. We're asking that we only got 2 bids, but they were well under budget. And so we're asking that you approve burn, boiler, and mechanical, the amount of $537,000 to do this work in summer of 2023.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the low bid of burn boiler and mechanical in the amount of $537,000 for unit ventilator replacement at Scenic Elementary in summer of 2023.
So moved.
Megan, second?
Second.
Mark? Questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up is the acceptance of bid for Deephaven unit ventilator, cabinet, and wall surface replacement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Law, and members of the board. We are asking you to approve similar work. This actually includes some cabinet replacement. We've actually been doing cabinet replacement at the elementary level for the last several years, and we do chunks about half of the school, of a couple of schools every summer. So Deephaven has a chunk of cabinets that need to be replaced, and then also we're resurfacing some of the walls. We resurfaced half of the building last year, and this will be the second half of it. So we got 6 bids, and the low bid was $962,000 from Daring Pearson Group for this, and our budget was $1,275,000 estimated. So we're asking you to approve Daring Pearson Group for this work for summer of 2023.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the low bid of Deering Pearson Group in the amount of $962,000 for the replacement of unit ventilators, cabinets, and wall surface at Deephaven Elementary in summer of 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Patrick, Katie, questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is acceptance of bids for the Minnetonka High School rooftop HVAC replacement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Superintendent Law, members of the board. We're doing our R22 replacement of the, we have a lot of units on our rooftops that have the banned R22 coolant. And so we've been actually chipping away at the various older units year after year. And so we have a couple more that we need to replace on top of actually the Arts Center area, and Arts and Music Center area of the high school. So our low bid on this was Cool Air Mechanical. We got really good prices on this. I was very surprised because HVAC units are actually, they have a long lead time. The other thing I guess I want to mention is on all these, our architects and our engineers we always try to be the first out of the gate, so to speak, on bidding, because the early bird gets the Benjamins, so to speak, or saves the Benjamins. And so we got a really great price, $233,200 from Cool Air Mechanical, so we'd ask that you approve doing that, them for doing that work for summer 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Bourgeois. Can I have a motion to accept the low bid of Cool Air Mechanical Incorporated in the amount of $233,200 for rooftop HVAC replacement at Minnetonka High School in summer 2023?
So moved.
Lisa, second?
Second.
Patrick? Questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is acceptance of bid for Groveland unit ventilator, cabinet, and wall surface replacement. Executive Director Bourgeois.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Superintendent Law, members of the board. This is to do similar work as several of the other items with at Groveland Elementary School. Again, a section of the school was built in the same area as a lot of the other sections of the school that we're working on right now. We are asking for you to approve Daring Pearson Group in the amount of $976,000 to do this work. We were under budget by $1,390,000. It's interesting, there's only 2 bids on this, but it was the second bid during the day, and turned out that the first bid during the day had more vendors on it, and Daring Pearson Group was low on that one, and they probably had a lot of all the same subs for their second bid, so only 2 actually stayed in for the second bid, but we still got really great prices. We'd ask you to approve this for summer of 2023 work.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the low bid of Deering Pearson Group in the amount of $976,000 for replacement of unit ventilators, cabinets, and wall surfaces at Groveland Elementary School in summer of 2023?
So moved.
Mark, second?
Second.
Megan? Questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Deering Pearson is going to be a full-time resident of Minnetonka.
They've actually done a lot of work for us in the past, and they're a really good contractor.
That's great. Next up, this is our carry-in item, is the acceptance of bid for roof replacement at Minnetonka High School.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Superintendent Law, members of the board. This roofing bid actually came in over budget. We had estimated $1 million, which was actually an increase from prior year estimates. But the low bid came in at $1,440,793. We are still recommending that we accept this bid. This is for a 4-ply built-up roof. We actually delayed this for 2 years and actually several other roofing projects because if you recall, 2 summers ago, we had just gone through the polar vortex in Texas, and we could not get replacement roof insulation. Part of the roofing project is that you tear off the existing roof and you replace insulation if it gets wet or damp or if it's old. And in fact, in this case, some of the insulation that we're going to be replacing, it's a complete tear off because some of the insulation was actually literally put on in 1973, 50 years ago. And then there was a second layer put on 25 years ago when they re-roofed. So we're actually going to take all that old stuff off and put it back on. But the thing is we couldn't even get roofing supplies. A year ago, we switched to doing some EPDM, which is a different roofing material, but there was very little of that even available on the market. But we were able to get a roofing project done at East Middle School. Normally, we'd be doing 3 or 4 roofing projects a year. This is our biggest dollar one, and it's also about just under an acre of roof. And the reality is the market is been pushing up, and we need to get this project done. We did save money on the other projects, so we have more than enough dollars to cover this overage in terms of the overall long-term facility maintenance budget. And this is a 25-year roof, so we're making an investment in on the original 1952 part of the building for most of it. We're recommending that you take this because we don't think that prices are going to go down from here. We think they're going to still keep creeping up. So we'd ask you to approve $1,440,793 worth of work from Lakes Area Roofing and Construction for summer 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Bourgeois. Can I have a motion to accept the low bid of Lakes Area Roofing and Construction in the amount of $1,440,793 for the roof replacement at Minnetonka High School in summer of 2023? So moved. Patrick, second?
Second.
Katie, questions or discussion? I think when you look at the budget of 1 million and the top bid of 2.2, it tells you where roofing is going with inflation.
It's kind of like a SpaceX rocket. It's just going up.
Anyone else? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh,
It's okay.
Well,
I
let's
just
go-
had a comment.
let's go back. I apologize. We'll
Okay.
do that over. Lisa, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just doing some quick math, so, between all the money that we saved on all these other bids, just for people's edification, we saved over $1.38 million. So, we're well covering the difference, and then some, so, just for people's comfort, I wanted to add it up real quick, so. That's what I was doing.
I didn't realize. I
Quickly
didn't see you
adding.
computing really fast. I
Yeah.
apologize.
So,
Anyone else? Okay, let's go back. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the acceptance of bid for freezer replacement at Minnetonka High School. Executive Director Bourgeois.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Superintendent Law, members of the board, we are asking you to approve CM Construction in the amount of $400,800 for work in the kitchen area of the high school. There's actually an old freezer that hasn't been working for a number of years now, but we finally have dollars in the fund balance to actually replace it. And the Nutrition Services Fund actually tries to fund replacement of their own equipment. And so we're actually going to look at having a little bit of a significantly larger freezer to replace the old one because the student body's gotten much larger. We're also actually going to be doing some adjustments to one of those, some of the equipment that supports the serving lines and actually replacing a counter to kind of streamline the third serving line on the far south end. So that amount of work is going to be accomplished next summer if you approve this bid. So we were under budget by the estimate of $500,000. So we'd ask that you approve this bid for summer 2023 work.
Thank you, Mr. Bourgeois. Can I have a motion to accept the low bid of CM Construction in the amount of $400,800 for the replacement of the large kitchen freezer at Minnetonka High School in summer 2023?
So moved.
Mark, second?
Second.
was simultaneous. We'll go with Lisa. Any questions or comments? Let's just say, was that included?
No,
Was
it
that
wasn't.
savings included in your calculation?
Yes, it was not
Can we-
included in my
Can we get an
calculation.
update?
So we're at $1.482 million, so,
And you will be busy in the summer of
yes,
2023.
very busy.
We have one more project that's coming, some work at MME, or MMW to actually get the science labs ready for physical science, but that's a little more complicated project, so we're actually going to be opening bids at the end of this month. So we're still ahead of the pack on that one, or ahead of the peloton, if you want to use a Tour de Tonka reference.
Anyone else? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bourgeois.
Thank you.
A lot of work ahead of us. Can I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Lisa, second.
Second.
Katie? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Board reports. Any member of the board have a report? Katie?
Just wanted to share with you all, as well as the community, that I had the opportunity to join Director Tim Lipfin and Advisory Council Chair Kelly up in St. Cloud at the Minnesota Community Education Association Conference. It was a lot of fun. We gave a presentation to community directors that attended, and really it was a lot of fun. The presentation was the relationship for school board and chair or community members interacting with our community education directors. It was a lot of fun. It was great to see our community education team there, collaborating, going to their breakouts, coming back with ideas. So not only was it an opportunity to network with fellow community education departments out there, but it was a great opportunity to really highlight some of the things that we do here in Minnetonka. And a nod to our, as Jackie said earlier, to our phenomenal community ed program. They also received the award for the 2022 Regional Project Award winner for their Tonka Top Shelf event that they held last year, if you remember, in February 2022. So that was good to see that our program highlighted also there in their awards. So just wanted to share with you all. It was a great day. Tim does a great job, and it was great to meet some new communities out there learning and collaborating with each other.
Thank you. Anyone else? Superintendent's report. Superintendent Law.
Chair Vitale, members of the board, just a couple comments. First of all, parents, if we're at that time of the year where you get to check in with your teachers for conferences, virtually or in person, signups are still open, and they'll be open likely through next Wednesday. Conferences will be Thursday and Friday of next week, so just to put that on people's radar. Next, I've had the opportunity to see all of our fall activities in action, and we're starting a year-end wrap-up, starting with marching band, a group I've had to see got to see a few times, as their state competition this Saturday, and then over the next month, all of our teams will be wrapping up their seasons. It's been fun to see our students. It's great to see kids connected to activities and finding success, even as we could probably hear outside the game that's happening tonight over at the high school. And I have learned that the play sells out quickly. And November 5th through the 20th is Grand Hotel. If you haven't bought your tickets, go online and check it out as soon as you can. It's a great chance for the community to see our students in action. So just putting those things on people's radar.
Great, thank you. Any announcements? Great. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Katie?
Second.
Lisa, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.